said there. First is we have to get away from a culture of just nominal counts. And part of that's moving from a mission of telling America's story to really thinking about how public diplomacy can be a piece of our policy implementation, and recognizing that there's a big difference between a farmer in the field and a member of a think tank. That doesn't mean that they're any less important. It just means different strategies require different targeting. So that's something, unfortunately, I think that my bureau in particular and the State Department and really large organizations, without clear guidance on their missions, sometimes they fall back on that nominal count. They look for those figures. And frankly, we have a media culture that also punishes failure. It certainly celebrates sometimes just nominal counts without really digging into it. I'm very interested in the depth of the relationship. So rather than nominal counts, how many repeat engagements do we have? How many people have dealt with our stuff twice, 3 times? In the absence of some clear policy outcome you can measure, we want 50,000 people to come study the United States, and how do we get there over the next 5 years from a certain country? Just tell me how many people told us by their behavior that this was worth their time by coming back. Let's just start there. The second thing I'll point out, this is this is in the news today. It is a controversial issue, so Stephanie, you should write this down. So I get in trouble. Let's talk about advertising really quick. Let's talk about advertising, the role of public diplomacy, and what that means. When you're advertising to boost nominal counts, yes, that is criticized. I think easily criticized. But advertising, particularly in social and online, allows us to reach those very specific audiences in hyper-efficient ways. We're paying for that personalization. We're not necessarily paying for an ad like you see in a Super Bowl ad. We're paying to make the internet hyper efficient for us to reach that group. And so when we think about strategic targeting for our policy work, I think that there's a really positive argument for advertising, but advertising done smartly. Not advertising as content so much as advertising as personalization, if this makes sense. And so I'm very interested in how we can actually have a thoughtful strategy about the use of advertising at the State Department. And to some extent, I think it's worth you thinking about as you're trying to introduce new content to in your own sort of product and your brand to key audiences. It's certainly something I'm sure Netflix does quite a bit of. How do we advertise in a way that reaches our core, our most likely customers? How do we grow? And I think that's something for all of us to think about.
We tried to do this with Google Ads. This is a Radio Free Asia in China, and it was tremendously successful. I mean, when we did it, we got a big response of people who wanted the forbidden news and information that we were giving them. Unfortunately, when we tried to feed it back to them, the Chinese plugged up the hole because, they follow us too. So I think that's a really good point, and I recommend Google Ads, especially at countries that are not as good at blocking as China, because it really brought in people that just wanted our product.